Atrazine is the most abundant herbicide found in drinking water in the United States. It's been banned in Europe since...
If I were president, and I say this, I will end that war in one day.
9/11, I would say, what that did to Muslim families in America. Cuomo and Zohranmamdani for New York mayor, when I don't with either of those people. Christian churches have perpetuated in America. That's not permissible. We've destroyed their homes, so they come here or they come to Europe. So stop destroying their homes. Prayer that Sneako did with a lot of the Muslim brothers, that wasn't to showcase our Jets didn't make the Super Bowl, and then we believe there are thousands, hundreds of thousands. He's literally done nothing for us as a voting bloc of people. For us as a group, he has done nothing. What's up, guys? My name is Jovian. This is Crescent Cross Covenant Coalition, or CCCC, and thank you for coming back and joining me. I'm in the same outfit as last episode. I am what the fashion world would call an outfit repeater. I love wearing an outfit 3, 4, 5 days in a row to fully live in it. For those of you tuning in for the first time, this channel is dedicated to healing the divide between Christians and Muslims. I'm in America, so in America, but then across the West in general. And then taking that healing, creating a coalition, a peaceful coalition out of that, and bringing that to politics. So yeah, I was thinking about when Trump promised all these things to the Muslim community while he was running. And the UFC fighter Khabib, and I think that's his name. I don't really follow that stuff. I don't really like sports. I used to be a huge American football fan, but shit's all fake, all the distraction. I can't do it anymore. But yeah, Trump promised all these things to all these Muslims and ending wars and looking after us and just a bunch of nothing.
If I were president, and I say this, I will end that war in one day. It'll take 24 hours. The economy is not good. I'll make it good. Everyone knows. Everyone knows. President Xi of China would never even be talking about Taiwan. We had that conversation strongly. I stopped North Korea from doing some really bad things. Iran was going to make a great deal. They were going to be happy. I was going to be happy. We're going to have a great relationship.
Bunch of nothing. Bunch of emptiness. To the point now where these Muslim bans and all this shit. And it made me realize that the cavalry is not coming for us. So what does that mean? It means we have to take our own side. As I converted to Islam, and again for new people, for the newbies, I converted to Islam in 2021, and I was a musician, I was an actor, from the liberal world. I'm an ex-liberal, so all these different things. Everything you think Muslim is, I don't check any of those boxes. Completely alternative from what the mainstream norm is for what a Muslim looks like and speaks like. So when I converted, especially during the holy month of Ramadan and then the last day of Ramadan, which is called Eid, I would see these democratic politicians come to the mosque and, virtue signal and talk about bullshit and, essentially just pander to get the votes. And because of 9/11, I would say the Muslims vote blue. They always vote Democrat. And the Democrats exploit that because of the fear of 9/11 and what that did to Muslim families in America and what that did to Muslims around the world. So, I understand the fear mongering that comes with, Muslims even to this day voting for Democrats and voting blue, but they've done nothing. And this is why the Christians that are on the right think so low of Muslims, because all the things that Muslims vote for, generally speaking, as just a conglomerate, all the things that Muslims vote for are in direct opposition to all of the pillars of Islam. So, of course, these people who are only hearing Quran and Muslim virtues from people who hate Islam and who want to psyop and, you know, who want to turn the West against Islam, if they only hear opinions like that from these people who hate Islam, and then they see the way Muslims vote as like a voting bloc, of course they're going to hate Islam. And so that duty falls on us as Muslims. You know, of course I'm here to build this platform and to make sure I share that perspective. And there's so many other great Muslims who bring philosophy and politics into their Muslim content. But I think we just got to take our own side. You know, generally speaking, the left are nihilists. That's it, just nihilists. I don't even like to use the word communism anymore because it's such a buzzword and it means nothing. It's kind of like racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic. These words are gone. They're donezo now. They've been beaten into the ground. So I don't want to use communism, but just nihilist people. Atheistic, nihilistic people are generally not what the left consists of, but the loud minority and the minority in control of the left opposition and the democratic opposition. That's just nihilism, atheism, antichrist bullshit. And then you have on the right people, the right-wing people are, again, racist is like such an empty word, but just not open to anything that's not white and some sectarianist version of Christianity. So it's like in this false dichotomy and this duality, Muslims don't fit in either of these things. Because the left are atheists and hate America. The right love America, but only if it's white and Christian. So it's time we take our own side. You know, I think as a voting bloc, in general, the more conservative Muslims, which we should all be conservative, and I don't mean that politically, I mean morally. Muslims are the most conservative group in America. I've seen a lot of them voted for Trump, of course. You know, if you're going to vote for the lesser of two evils, then of course Trump was the better option. But he's done nothing. He's done nothing for us. He's literally done nothing for us as a voting bloc of people. You know, for our faith, for us as a group, he has done nothing. And Trump is a nobody. You know, Trump woke a lot of people up, and there was a lot of red pilling through Trump's populist movement in the beginning, but there was never anything there. It was just like the idea, right? The packaging and the ideas that he proposed were so enticing. And then people's own hopes and dreams were projected onto that movement and that idea, right? And that projection is what caught speed and caught wind. And that's what propelled him to be this like monumental, historic, and political figure. But there was never anything there. It was just a projections of people's hopes and dreams as to like what they wanted America to be. And Trump was just an empty vessel that was able to Trojan horse that in. But all that's happened now it's just exploitation. All that's happened in that movement is just a bunch of people exploiting America through a populist movement of getting in the government and, you know, through nonprofits and through title bullshit. All the people that are around Trump are just exploiting America dry and using their connections at the federal level to build more connections overseas and gather more money and more influence, and we get nothing. Trump was just this shallow puddle of just nothingness. And generally speaking, the Muslims took his side because it was the lesser of two evils, and we're in a worse position than we were before him. So we need to take our own side. There's no left, there's no right, it's just Islam. And building this coalition to the platform and the level that I know it can get to, with me as the leader, speaking to my people, because not only are Muslims my people, but Americans are also my people. Right? I have points of entry everywhere. The liberals not anymore are they my people, but I come from that world. The artists, right? So it's the Muslims, the artists, I can speak to the Christians properly. I can speak to the liberals. I can speak to the Americans, the American right? Roman Catholic background. I could speak to them. We need to choose our own side, and no more of this bullshit. Lesser of two evils. It's still evil. The lesser of two evils is still evil. So I don't want to have to vote against Kamala Harris. I want to be able to vote for Trump. And I didn't vote for Trump. I voted against Kamala Harris. And I refuse to live in this world, this political climate where there's this false dichotomy. I don't want to live in a false dichotomy system where it's choosing the lesser of two evils, because that's like sports. Right? Sports, again, because I come from American football background, sports is, okay, the New York Jets didn't make the Super Bowl, but the New York Giants did. So I'm a New York Jets fan, but it's still New York, it's close enough. I'll root for them just for the sake of rooting for someone. That's sports. But in politics, that's not how it should be. I shouldn't have to vote between Andrew Cuomo and Zohranmamdani for New York mayor when I don't with either of those people, right? They were both, think about that, like even though Andrew Cuomo went on the independent ticket because he's fucking retarded, it was still between two Democrats. That's not a real, that's a false dichotomy, and it really is a lesser of two evils. No disrespect to Zohran, of course, if he's truly a Muslim, then I'm not critiquing him on a personal basis, more so on his political basis. But I wanted to be able to vote for Andrew Cuomo, not against Zohran, right? That doesn't make any sense. And now it's time to build something, because this is not sports, this is politics, this is real life, real world shit. It's important for us to build a structure, build a platform together with me as the leader, as the competent leader, which is very, very hard to find nowadays, unfortunately, where these people need to come to my table, to our table, right? And they need to answer to us and what we want. And if they do not, if they're not, I hate to say America first, because that comes with a bunch of other shit, which Muslims feel like they're not as invited to, but America first in that we are getting things that as American citizens benefit us, right? None of this bullshit immigration, and of course with immigration, it's not entirely these immigrants' fault for the most part, depending on where they come from, because we've destroyed so many countries on behalf of our greatest ally, and then of course we displace these people. We've destroyed their homes, so they come here or they come to Europe. So stop destroying their homes, rebuild their homes in the Middle East, and then these people won't come here. And then they're third worlders, generally speaking, no disrespect. So they're gonna have a different way of life. They might be looking to exploit here, right? Just like all the Hispanics. Like I've met so many Hispanics where they send all the money home. They make money here, they're on benefits, they send all the money home, and in 20 years, they are super, super well off compared to what they would have been if they stayed home, and then they open up a business at home and they're rich. And then America got nothing, right? So there's an exploitative aspect to this. Cut all that shit. Heal this divide between Christians and Muslims and showcase that Muslims are a benefit to the West and a benefit to the American system. And if these politicians are not willing to meet with us and answer those questions and give us something, then not only do we not vote for them, we actually vote for the enemy. We protest vote. And that's not to say we sacrifice on our integrity, right? Like using this where, like imagine this existed in the way that I explained, and then, we meet with Zohran and we meet with Andrew Cuomo, and, if Andrew Cuomo doesn't answer the call, that doesn't mean necessarily to vote for Mamdani, even though he's like at LGBTQ rallies and is for trans clinics and all this bullshit. That doesn't mean we necessarily vote for someone who is against our integrity, but we still protest vote, right? So in that context, for the New Yorkers or people who were paying attention to that moment in New York, we would vote for Curtis Sliwa, because now he stands for a lot of great things. He might not be ideal for the Muslim vote, but we're still not sacrificing our integrity for voting for, some Zog shill or some, like communist, Muslim, whatever he is. We'd vote for a third party. We know he's going to lose, but the point is to showcase to the parties that are actually in power, hey, either for Andrew Cuomo's side, you lost because of us, or Mamdani, you almost lost because of us. Now, next time, you're going to have to come to the table and actually answer our call. And then taking that's local, right? That's just mayor. Never mind the smaller positions that are really important to the day-to-day life in America, but also the bigger shit like governor and president, and senators. Like, there's so many levels we take this. And of course, bringing our own people in too, because that's another thing I've explained in the past. The couple of Muslims that exist politically, whether they're afraid of 9/11, so they grew up Democrat, or they're using Islam as the mask and a way to, virtue signal to get their constituents to vote for them. White people in general, the liberal white people have so much white guilt that they vote for anyone brown because it makes them, it gives them brownie points, makes them feel like they've done something with their white guilt, retarded. So using Islam as a mask to get elected, like they're not representative of Islam in any way. Ilhan Omar, Zohranmamdani, there's a few other ones. If they're on the left, if they're of the left, then they're not representative of Islam. Like they kind of perpetuate the idea that Islam isn't compatible with the West. That's what these stupid $7,000 club people on X, they keep pushing this narrative. But Islam is against LGBTQ, right? We have no tolerance for that. No tolerance for premarital sex, so no whores, no prostitution, no sleeping around, no usury. That one's a little tough in America just because everything runs on interest. You got people using Klarna for Black Friday. Supposedly, 90% of Black Friday sales came from Klarna, which is pay in 4. That's crazy. You got people paying in 4 for pizza. That's insane. So we're against usury, which is interest, gambling, no gambling. There's so much tolerance that the Christian churches have perpetuated in America that have created the environment that we're in now. And then instead of seeing Muslims are the only group that are actively against all those things, Muslims are attacked for not being compatible with the West, as if Muslims brought all those things, when it's the Christian church's tolerance that brought secularism, liberalism, gay shit, right? LGBTQ is everywhere, right? In your TV shows, on the street. Like, there used to be shame there. Like, LGBTQ was looked at as, oh, that's a traumatic mental sort of illness, a traumatic response to something that happened to this man or woman as a child or as a teen that made them go that direction, and that's supposed to be hidden behind closed doors. But now it's public and it's glorified and it's attacking our kids. And I'm not here to point the blame in a sort of like slam dunk sort of energy or like a gotcha moment, but that's the church's fault. You have women priests, gay priests, like priests are marrying men and marrying women, like that's your Old Testament, like story of Prophet Lot. Like, you're not, like, that's not permissible. It's not permissible. You don't see the Jews doing that. The Jews do not do that. So why would you bring that tolerance into your churches? That's what's created all this. And it goes deeper. Of course, it goes way deeper than this is just the surface of what I'm saying. And, for the sake of being canceled and, having this be a movement that actually can go somewhere. I can't go into full detail yet. I need to be uncancelable first. But all that is to say, like, we need to take our own side and we need to not prove to the right-wing Christians that we're a worthy ally, like we're like compromising or we're begging for it, because f*** you. It's that simple. F*** you. I'm not begging for anything, but I'm showcasing our beliefs. I'm showcasing our pillars, how philosophically and politically it can align with you guys. And everything you're against is also what Islam is against. LGBTQ, secularism, liberalism, nihilism, prostitution, sleeping around, premarital sex, having kids, or the lack of having kids in America, gambling, These are all in direct opposition to all of the Muslim pillars and all of Muslim doctrine and all of Muslim faith. So how could we be your enemy? Religiously, spiritually, politically, how could we be your enemy? When everything you're against is also in direct opposition to our beliefs. I don't even get how we got here. You know, I mean, I do to a certain degree. Of course, there's a psyop. There's like these astroturfed sort of people on social media pushing these narratives. And, you know, let's say Alex Jones, who I spoke about last episode, like he really predicted 9/11 and he predicted all these things. He had this viral thing of like, they're making the frogs gay. And that obviously the execution of sharing that idea is crazy. But then there is a chemical in tap water, atrazine. And at high levels of atrazine, they were able to not only turn some frogs, there was like a study of like 40-something frogs, and they were able to turn not only some frogs sterile, but the majority of the frogs actually changed genders. Through atrazine, they were able to change genders. So his point was, yo, they're turning the frogs gay. Atrazine is in your tap water.
Atrazine is the most abundant herbicide found in drinking water in the United States. It's been banned in Europe since 2003 because studies have shown that even at concentrations much lower than what we allow in our drinking water, it has changed the development of male tadpoles by making them female tadpoles by virtue of blocking hormones. So it's an endocrine disruptor hormone blocker that, along with plastic chemicals, contributes tremendously to a rising rate of infertility. Now, the company that makes this, Syngenta, did their own studies and said there's nothing to see here. But I mean, that's kind of like taking the advice of Dr. Marlboro on the effects of smoking on health. So I would take that with a grain of salt. So what can we do to cut this down, to decrease our exposure to this? Well, number one thing is wash produce, ideally bioorganic if possible. And then secondly, since it's in our water supply, use an activated charcoal filter. That will definitely take it out, or a reverse osmosis filter. So being aware of this is very important. Again, this contributes tremendously, I think, to our rates of infertility that we're facing right now.
Imagine what that could do to you. And then you see this gay and trans movement happening in America. So like he's done a lot of great things and he's shared a lot of great things. So now he's so trusted that the white right-wing Americans are gonna trust his thoughts and his comments on Islam and on the Quran. I've said it in the past. He said that Muslims don't believe in Jesus. Wrong religion, bitch. And then he said that Islam is a manual for military takeover. Wherever Muslims are, they're able to militarily, if that's a word, militarily take over wherever they're staying through teachings in the Quran. When like literally, this is like not hyperbole, 2.6% of the Quran even speaks anything about physical conflict in any sort of capacity. So much like I've always said, he's either lying or he's a f***ing idiot. It's one of those. And I don't think he's an idiot, so he's lying. He's actively lying. So you have people like that who are gonna trust him no matter what. And it's important for someone who comes from Americans, right? I come from their world, or the liberals who are atheists and nihilists. Those are probably harder to talk to, honestly, because at least the right-wing people, they hate Islam, but they believe in God. So that's a step in the right direction. But it's important for me to speak to them and address them and say, hey, once again, I'm not looking to debate. If I say I believe Jesus is the Messiah, he was born from Virgin Mary, he spoke at his birth, he was almost crucified, but God swapped him out and now he's in heaven, right? I'm not saying that you need to believe that as a Christian. I'm saying that's our belief and how close it is to yours. But these people on social media, these fucking retards, they are interpreting it as, hey, you're wrong, I'm right, join me, but in joining me, you need to believe what I believe. I've never said that. I've never said that. I'm healing the divide. I'm bridging the divide. I'm not looking to convert you. You don't need to look to convert me. So when I state what my belief is as a Muslim in my book, it states these things in my book. This is not me lying or hiding my power level or looking to deceive you. I'm stating what we believe as a faith. That's not me telling you you need to believe it, and that's not an invitation for you to tell me why I'm lying or I'm wrong, because I'm saying Muslim doctrine. I'm stating our pillars. I'm stating Jesus is the Messiah. It says it less than 4 verses into the Quran. I'm stating what my book says so that there's no miscommunication. And yet somehow, and this again, it's not everybody, but I've seen a lot of people taking it as, oh no, you're lying, you're wrong. Jesus is God. You need to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior in order for us to do anything. That's like, then you're asking me to be Christian. If the whole point of this foundation and the whole point of my channel, right, the whole ethos of this channel is to bridge the divide between Islam and Christianity. So if you're saying I need to accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior in order to work with you, then you're asking me to be Christian, which goes against my entire ethos. You understand? So stop that. Don't think there's a debate here. There's no debate here. I'll discuss our truths. And obviously even though I was raised Roman Catholic, there are some things I might not know, even the sectarian aspect of this, which gets so complicated, it makes matters even worse. But yeah, there are certain things I may get wrong, or I may be stating a certain sect and not another sect. Yeah, there's stuff we can learn from each other, but I'm not looking to debate. I'm not looking to debate. And then when I'm attacked in these ways, it forces me to be like, yo, I don't want to bring shit up from the Bible. I don't want to bring up contradictions from the Bible. And this is not an invitation for you to bring up your fake contradictions from the Quran. It's not about that. It's about sharing the similarities and then sharing the truths of our differences and what we believe in the end times, what we believe is going to happen, in terms of some of Prophet Muhammad's predictions or prophecies. I feel like prediction is not so much of a sure word, but the prophecies that he shared. So that's what I'm here for, just to do that. And then bring it political, bring it to politics, and make sure we choose our own side. We choose our own side as Muslims and Christians who just want a safer country where we can coexist. We both praise, fear, and submit to God in some way. And the Christians would say, more on the loving side. And of course God loves us. He's the all-merciful. So of course we believe that. So I know there's a critique on the submission aspect. Fine, whatever. The semantics, bro. We believe in the same God. We believe the same exact Jesus is the Messiah and he's coming back. We believe that neither of us should kill one another based on our beliefs. So, bro, we're on the same side. So let's choose ourselves for the first time, because the cavalry is not coming. It's just us. Trump is not your savior. He never was. He woke us up as a country, right? As someone not from the system who can actually make a difference, a populist sort of movement. But it was always an empty vessel that the people around him just projected their own reflection of the world into him. Just an empty vessel, and he's everything to everybody. But he's done nothing. He's done nothing except help the elite, even more so. Corporate tax cuts, no illegal immigration moratorium, or no illegal immigration removal. And it's time we are our cavalry. It's time to take our own side. There's no left, there's no right. Obviously there's a nihilist left, an atheistic left, and a very racist right, of course. Those are the extreme sides. But in general, we can align. We can put the differences aside and align on the main 90%, which is just wanting a peaceful and prosperous country. And it's said that eventually when these countries in the Middle East are healed again, then all these Muslims are going to want to go back. No, Muslims don't want to be around gay shit. Muslims don't want to be around, secularism and liberalism and people who hate them. Muslims are not here to take over. The Times Square public prayer that Sneako did with a lot of the Muslim brothers, that wasn't to showcase, to beat our chest, to showcase our power and how we're going to take over New York City. New York City is literally the capital of the gays. Why? There's more gays than Muslims here, I'm sure. Why? And I bet there's more atheists or secularists than there are Muslims or even religious people, I bet. So we don't want to take this place over. New York is my home, bro. I want to heal it, but doing a public prayer like that, there's every Muslim country does that. So they're just bringing that there. Times Square, Myron Gaines, he said Times Square, they were treating Times Square, he was comparing Times Square to Mecca. Mecca is our holy land, and then Times Square is the Christians' holy land. It's not the Vatican, bitch. If anyone's been to Times Square, then there's already traffic there. It's best not to drive there. And they were on the sidewalk. They prayed in this area where no one's even there. I think they took a permit out. I don't even know if they took a permit out. Who gives a fuck? They were in no one's way. If anything, it showcases to others like, whoa, like this is peaceful, you know, like the way we pray and everything in unison, it's like, that's not militant, it's beautiful. Stop waiting. These politicians hate you. These politicians hate you. They don't even know that Muslims believe in Jesus, bro. Like, imagine that. Again, like I've said before, that's like saying we don't believe in noses. He's there in heaven. He's coming back. We don't believe in him, we know in him. We revere him in the same exact way. He's not a deity to us, but that doesn't mean we don't revere him. So these people don't even know that we believe in Jesus, or even worse, they're purposefully censoring the fact that we do. Like I said in a previous video, some stupid person said that Muslims only believe in one prophet. Like, what the fuck, bro? I think it's 24 prophets, I think, mentioned in the Quran, 25. And then we believe there are thousands, hundreds of thousands that aren't even mentioned in any of the three main Abrahamic faith books. So they're actively suppressing and censoring our beliefs. And even in school, like pushing Egyptian gods and Roman gods and Greek gods. Why do we even learn about that in school? Like, why? What purpose does that serve? History is important for sure. Science, math, English, all that stuff, that's all important. But why the fuck are we learning about fake religions? Like, we're learning about the sun god and the moon god and the underworld god, the sea god, and then the Russians, my bad, the Roman version, and then the Greek version, and then the Egyptian version. All that does is, when you hear as a kid these fantastical sort of like sci-fi stories that as a kid, it lets your imagination roam, and you know, like they're very rich in detail, and you know, they really explain things in a certain way. Most kids, I would say, who are critical thinking enough, or who come from a good foundation, they're not going to believe those stories, right? They're not going to start believing in any of these gods, generally speaking. But what they're going to do, they're going to attribute the stories from the real God, from the Quran and the Bible and the Torah. They're going to associate those same stories as fantastical, the way the Egyptian, the Roman, and the Greek god stories are. That's what's going to happen. Because they're exposed to these stories at such a young age, and you know, hopefully they do go to some like religious instruction class, whether it's Muslim or Christian. Because they're at school more than they're at the religious the religious institution, they're going to associate those being the same sort of fable, you know, fairy tale style stories, where there's a god and they're doing things to man on earth and all these different things. And that's purposeful. That's a psyop. That is a psyop. And that's what these people are. That's what these people are. So we need to take our own side every single time, make these people do something for our vote. We can't just vote Democrat because they didn't blame us for 9/11. What the fuck, bro? That's such a bare minimum. Oh, they didn't blame you for 9/11, let's vote for them. They do nothing for you. They push drag queen story hour, and they push gay books in fifth grade, and push pronouns. Right? Like, I know someone, he's in the 7th grade now. In the 5th grade, he knew about pronouns. And things he would have to sign, he'd have to put his pronouns. The fuck does a 10, 11-year-old have to have? He doesn't even know what a pronoun is, like grammatically. So now you're pushing that onto him in terms of his gender identity. What the fuck is that? So these are the people you're voting for, because we're so afraid of 9/11. They've weaponized that. And then in a funnel of virtue signaling, now we're just like automatically, much like the black people, just automatically voting for the left. That's my right. That's the left. Automatically just voting for the left, voting for Democrat every single time. And they're weaponizing it to ensure you always do that. You don't look into the politics. You don't look into these politicians' policies and what they've said in the past. If they get money from AIPAC, which is an important aspect of this shit. And I'm just over it. You know, maybe there's a rebellion in my heart, and I see things in such an alternative way, which I want to, you know, share those alternative sort of foundations to ensure that we just have a safe place here, because we're Americans. There were Muslim slaves. Muslims have contributed so much to this country, and we deserve a place here because we can coexist. Not because we're a detriment to society, not because we're a detriment to the American way of life. Actually, in Muslim doctrine, we have to respect the local laws of whatever land we coexist in, as long as it doesn't compromise on our faith. So you guys aren't forcing us to eat bacon, right? We have halal meat that we can eat here. We're able to have places of worship where we can pray. We pray in our houses. We're able to practice Ramadan and practice Eid, our 2 holidays every year. And Christmas isn't forced on us, right? We generally, we can coexist here. We can have a respectful relationship. If we need to segregate, fuck it, we segregate. I don't want that. But Dearborn, I feel like, is a good example of a shining example of a city that's doing well. And I think, it's majority Muslim. It doesn't need to be the way that it is. Don't allow people who hate you to convince you that Muslims hate you too. Because those people hate you. Of course, they're going to tell you the exact opposite of what the truth is. The people that hate you are going to tell you to stay away from the very people that you should be aligning the most with. Because we're the only people against the exact same things you're against. And we can teach you how to not be so tolerant. Because tolerance is the devil, and tolerance is how we got here. So please, I urge you guys, come with me on this journey. Let's take this political. Let's take our system back. Let's make America the great country it can be. And if you got this far, I appreciate you. Again, my name is Jovian, and this is Crescent Cross Covenant Coalition, looking to heal the divide between Christians and Muslims and showcase how we are the greatest ally for you. Thank you so much for your time. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم